I'm Brandon Roberts. Welcome to the Pike County Report. With me, as always, Pike County Judge Executive Wayne T. Rutherford, and joining us again today is Community Services Director Carol Napier. And Judge, we've been going around to the senior centers past couple of weeks to the Christmas parties and whatnot, and that's when you really get a feel of what these centers really mean to people. And I know you started the senior program in the county, and when you look at it now, how do you think about that?
One of the best programs that I've been involved in since I've been in public service. Brandon, it goes back to, I can remember when I came in office, the Senior Citizen Center that was serving all of Pike County was Betsy Lane. I went down and visited Betsy Lane and saw at least 10 or 15 from Pike County. By virtue of office, I became a member of the board of the Big Sandy Area Development District, and later became chairman 3 years. Dr. Hamley was chairman for 3 years also. But then I observed that Floyd County had a senior citizens program, and so when I asked for a copy of the budget from the ad district, all of the money that was coming for senior citizens was to Floyd County. Judge Tumbo had been chairman for approximately 2 or 3 years, and they had started a senior citizen program with all the money that was coming through the state to the Area Development District. So realizing the size of Pike County and the geographic layout of Pike County and the need for Pike County, myself and the physical court decided that we wanted a senior citizens program. So at that time, the physical court handled the severance tax fund. It wasn't handled by the legislature. It was handled by the and the guidelines were somewhat different, and the law changed as the years went by. But we was able to take severance tax funding and was able to start establishing Carl Senior Citizen Centers throughout the county. The first one we started was in Pikeville because we knew that we had people here they was even picking up on a bus from Betsy Lane and taking them to the Betsy Lane Center. Mm-hmm. So we started one in Pikeville, and we got a room over in Myers Towers on the first floor. And you know that we had Glenn McDowell, a retired school teacher, and he really got interested in it and recruited so many people that we didn't have enough room at that time over in the Myers Towers. Mm-hmm. We then went to the city and said, well, you have the old school over on the bypass, where the homeless shelter is now, and we can get some money to renovate it, and if you all will help us, just let us have no rent. We'll go over there and renovate it, and we will move the Senior Citizen Center over there. And the city, the mayor, and Mayor Hamley, and the Pikeville City Commission, they partnershiped with us, and we went over and opened the first center at Pikeville. The director of that center at that time was Mrs. Hughes, Betty Hughes. And Betty stayed there, Carl, I don't know how many years. How many years did she stay?
I would think Betty was there over 20 years.
Over 20 years, mm-hmm. and a great job. They absolutely loved Betty. She was dedicated. Betty passed away about a year after, I guess, she retired, mm-hmm. we understand. But the Pikeville Center, and then, of course, knowing the geographic layout of Pikeville, we started around it. We was able to buy a house at Virgie, mm-hmm. and we went up. We named that center Allie Burke Center. That's where Allie was from, and raised her family in that area. And her son was jailer at that time, and we named that center the Allie Burke Center, and moved in the house. Didn't have to do any renovation or anything. We used severance tax money to buy the house. And we paid the salaries for the directors as we started to hire them. The ad didn't have anything whatsoever, no funding in Pike County Center. till later years. Then, of course, we went to Belfry and we looked for a location, and we found the old bank building up Stone, which is right below the Heritage Museum over there, the Stone Redbird, as they call it, the building. And we purchased that building with severance tax money and opened up a senior citizen center in there. At Shelby Valley, later, then we'll go back and get Shelby Valley out of the way first. Then it got so big that we said, well, we've got to have someplace else, because it grew and people came in. The little house we bought wouldn't hold the people. So then we ended up moving it down to, and got funding, and matched that funding with co-severance tax money. And a building was built at Robinson Creek, and it was called the Shelby Valley Center. And it's there. And their first director, if I remember, was what was the name that we had up there? I know we had a Mrs. Ratliff, but the director for years, and I think Doris Tackett is up there now,
Yeah, Doris is
who was a employee of that center for many, many years, and she is there now. But that center has been a blessing to everybody in that particular area of the county too. Then we went over to Belfry and in Pond Creek, and we established that center there at Belfry. And then over there today is I think Melanie Mead.
Yes.
Melanie Mead is the director. But I want to mention Linda Haywood, who for many, many years, that's the coach's wife, Brandon, Coach Haywood's wife, somebody who was absolutely dedicated to that program over there. Carol, she was great. I had the opportunity to go over when she was retiring, and all of those senior citizens, she got to enjoy Whistle Mullins and his piano playing and all. And she made that center, and it was enjoyable to go to that center. It was a fun center every time you went, because everybody was up and upbeat. But then we had the Phelps area to get, and I remember, Carl, we went over, and they was on top of, before you go over the hill into, as you go up the hill at Majestic, before you go across the hill, you got almost top of the hill, and there was a little church. I think it was the Church of God, and we went and talked to they had moved out to a larger place. So I remember Mr. Booth, Enoch Booth, there in Phelps, and he was on a committee that helped us find a place. And it wasn't before too long that little church, not room for the people who wanted to take part in a senior citizens program. And then, of course, we had got the law changed, and we was able to build a courthouse at Belfry and one at Phelps. So as we was building the courthouse at Phelps, we added a kitchen to it, and we added a section in, and we moved from Majestic down to a more centrally located place right at the Phelps Courthouse, which the county owned and was rebuilding and remodeling and building on. So at the Phelps Courthouse, the Melissa, we then outgrew the courthouse location because of the people enjoyed the camaraderie and getting up and having somewhere to go, and the funds they had and the trips they had, and people started coming, and we had to make arrangements. And then the physical court at that time built the intergenerational center at Johnson Bottom, an area that we had got from and moved the people out of the floodplain. The first program in the United States. It was a pilot program that would come in, and people that wanted to could move out of the floodplain, and that brought on the programs that they use today, that FEMA and the Department of Agriculture used to move people out of the floodplain. And So Rio Johns was the housing director at that time, and Gay Newsom, who's housing director today, was his secretary at that time. But we got funding, and we put in the intergenerational center the senior citizens. We put the kitchen in, and we put to comply with the code, and the bathroom, and we was able to open up a Phelps area senior citizens center large enough to take care, and we've added on, Carl, since we've been here, even we've remodeled and got more room in that facility for those seniors in that particular area. Then, of course, we have Elkhorn City. And we went up to Elkhorn City, and we bought a little brick home. It was a real good bargain, Brandon. That the mayor at that time said you can get that over there at a bargain if you and you ought to get it, because we don't have any money in the budget here in Elkhorn City. So we bought it, and we had a lady up there who was loved in the community, who was named Zeddy Childers. Her husband was a doctor, and we named it the Zeddy Childers Senior Citizens Building. And we moved into that building. And Carl, as usual, in that particular area of the county, people got to enjoying the program so much, and had something to get up in the morning and to come out to, and they had trips planned and all of that, and games, and got a meal there for a quarter back then. What they are today, probably 50 cents, but then it was a quarter. But as usual, it grew, and we had the court, physical court, had to make a decision. So they went up to an old store building that was it the Velocity Market, I guess, or was it next to it? It was an old business building, and they ended up buying that building with severance tax money again. Severance tax money, and remodeling that building. We've done work on it since we've been here, as you know, but had plenty of room for that center to grow, and it is a active center, and it is a blessing to go to that center. And I can remember Joyce Sykes stayed there many years. She was dedicated. They loved her. She loved them. And we have now up there a lady doing a good job is Leslie Gibson, I think the lady's name is, and at that facility in Elkhorn City. Then the physical court bought property with severance tax money. That at that time the money came to the court. We bought property at Marbone. We brought, after the old Bible college went out, after Reverend Otteson passed away, even before he passed away, they moved the school to the Ashland area. So that property was auctioned off, and we bid it in. And using severance tax money, we took the old college president, Mr. and Mrs. Otteson's house they lived in, and before that, Carl, it was the home of the superintendent of the coal company, who had a large, that employed about 1,500 miners in that area at one time. And the superintendent's, the president's house of the coal company lived in this house. And I think the only one that's living up there now is Marie Long. I know Myrtle Bartley, until her death, she lived to be around 100. But Myrtle and her used to tell me when I'd see them, we're the only two that everybody else has passed on since we got the Senior Citizen Center. But that's been a blessing to those people in that area of Pike County. Then Blackberry, which is an isolated area in the county in a way, it is part of that magisterial district over at Phelps, but you have that huge mountain between them, and then you have the mountain going over into Pond Creek, and as you know, the geographic layout over there, they was somewhat isolated. So they had a community committee together, and it was made up, and I guess the two people was Mr. Whitt and was probably Eugene Gibbs and many others in the community got together with a committee and said, we want a senior citizen. So they ended up getting the magistrate in that district, state representative who represented that district, and they was lucky that we had a governor from Pike County who was in office at that time in Frankfort. And they got a beautiful, beautiful building, Carl, that had sweat equity in it. And that means that when you build something, that those who are going to use it took part in building it. But believe it or not, they set up a sawmill and they cut about all the wood in the area that they built it with. And again, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but we try to partnership with our coal corporations and people that does business in the county. And we was very fortunate that Don Blankenship, at that time the head of Massey, was born at Argo in Pike County. They had mines on Blackberry at the time, and still do. Massey does. And so we was able to partnership with them and get $50,000 to put a ultra-modern kitchen in it. And that's what Massey wanted, that's what Don Blankenship wanted, and that's what they got over there in this. What an opportunity for those people, and they've taken advantage of it. It warms your heart anytime you go to that center over there. And Denise New is over there now, and we was blessed, Carl, with Lou Witt. Again, those people who participated loved Lou, and Lou was dedicated. I remember when they finished the building, they didn't have what the number that she thought that ought to be taking advantage of that building, and she went out and knocked on doors and said, you don't know what you're missing. You've got to start coming to our center. So we ended up on Blackberry, and then Carl, you was on the committee, and we know what the Wards, Mr. and Mrs. Ward, and Mr. Abshar, and all of those people, your family and many other families, said, well, if you're going to build a community center over to Kemper, that area had the mountain and Peter Creek on the other side of it. They had the Fish Trap Reservoir, and those people at Grapevine somewhat and was isolated. So we ended up with your all's committee, same as Blackberry. You all committee caused it to happen, and had the support of your physical court and of your legislators in Frankfort to get to build a community center at Blackberry, and then you as over the program worked with the ad district and worked with I think Liz Hamilton and others down there and Mrs. Runyon, and we opened up a center at Kemper for those folks, and then we'll go back and we talked about Massey. We'll talk about Kemper. And Carl, you can tell the story about EQT. I told Carl, I said EQT has a foundation. They're giving away a vast amount of money that we had been meeting with their people in regard to them moving to Scott Fort, and had met Mrs. Duncan and the other lady from several times from Pittsburgh, who said that they wanted to get more involved since they was moving their office here. And you can go ahead and tell what happened in regard to your needs that you forgot about when we started the Kemper.
Yeah. One of the things that happened at Kemper, Judge, was that we started the center, but then I realized that we sort of put the cart before the horse, so to speak, because we then realized we didn't have transportation, and it was at that time you brought to my attention EQT, had a foundation. So I applied for a grant, and we were blessed to receive a grant of $50,000, and as a result, we were able to purchase those 2 vehicles that we now transport the seniors into the center and use the other for home delivery.
And the home delivery, we have about 65,000 or 64,000 that we deliver to everybody's home to make sure that those people who are homebound and can't get out to these senior citizen centers has a nutritional meal. And I think about 38 or 39,000 people has a nutritional meal in these centers the days they're open during the week.
Yeah, that was our totals that we ended this past fiscal year in.
That'd be about, what, 103,000 people?
It'll be over
I guess.
103,000 meals that we prepared for this past fiscal year. And we've increased that, you know, since we came into office. We were blessed to be able to extend the home delivery in the Belfry area. And that was due to, you know, the fiscal court allocating another $50,000.
I want to tell this one while you're talking about it. We ended up at Belfry and we didn't have a vehicle. Carl was given a vehicle. It was a rather new one when we came into office. So I did see it parked down in the parking lot. So I asked Carl one day, I said, "Where's your vehicle?" She said they didn't have one at Belfry, and I took it over there for them to use. So that's the dedication that we have from Carl Napier, because she too, Brandon, is dedicated to this program, like these ladies, all these ladies we mentioned, and we've also looked at other foundations, and I was telling Carl that I contribute every year to the foundation of the Kentucky Colonels. And this year I was able to go down and thank Glenn Baston, who had been my friend, and Walter May's friend here in town for 40 years. And I was able to go down, invited to come down, and was able to thank him for that. You can tell what you fought with the Kentucky Colonels and what you got from them. Yeah,
with the Kentucky Colonels, we were able to get a $10,000 grant, and they had worked out with the dealership in Louisville to be able to take that money and get a vehicle for us for home delivery for the Phelps Senior Center. So we were blessed to get that. And then too, Judge, just recently I was notified we had applied for a grant with Alpha Resources, and they've approved us for a grant so that we'll be able to get a vehicle that's going to be used at Blackberry. And as you mentioned, you know, our senior program's been going for a number of years, and we've reached a point where with some of our vehicles that we have to replace because they've got a number of miles on them. So we've been blessed that we've been able to get grants from different resources, and I'm real thankful for that.
Oh gosh, yes.
And you know, I'm just pleased with what we've been able to accomplish, you know, since we came into office in January of '07. You know, and I contributed that to the fiscal court and their dedication to our program, as well as the fact that we have a board that's really active as well.
Carl, tell us who's on that board. And I know that Eugene Gibbs and Eugene and his wife is by his side, and I remember prior to Eugene Gibbs, for many years, former State Representative Clayton Little was chairman of that board, but he did a great job. But Eugene has been special since he's been on that, and good to work with. And tell them about the board and who's on that board.
Okay. Well, our board is made up of each center elects a person from the seniors to represent them on the Pike County Senior Citizens Program Board. As you mentioned, we have Eugene Gibbs, who represents the Blackberry McCarr Center. He serves as our chairman of the board and has been since I've been in office, and I think even before I came in office. So again, I was blessed to be able to have his expertise when I came in office, being that he'd served on the board a number of years. And then we have over at the Phelps Center, we have Gary Sweeney.
Gary's very active, isn't he?
Yes, he's very active. And then at Belfry, we have Tina Varney. Tina Varney has served on the board a number of years. She's real active with Hope in that area over at Belfry. And she's been, like I said, been on the board a number of years. And then at Kemper, we have Hubert Houston that represents the Kemper. And then we also have at Elkhorn City, we have Mike Taylor, who is also the mayor of Elkhorn City. He's been on the board a number of years. And then we have at the Pikeville Center, we have, let's say, Pauline Childers. Let me mention Marbone first. Pauline Childers first, that she represents.
Pauline is a special person and is very dedicated to the program.
Yeah. And then with the Pikeville Center, we have Charlene Porter that represents.
Charlene, that's William Porter's wife. She worked at the hospital for many, many years.
Yeah, she was a nurse there.
She was a nurse, and every time attends all the meetings. I mean, she's very, very active in the community and dedicated to
Yeah.
the program. But we've been blessed, haven't we?
Oh, we have, and as I said, with our board, they're real active. They're real engaged. Not always do they agree with me, but I have no problem with that because sometimes I think I may have this bright idea, and then they'll point some things out I didn't realize, and and I'm appreciative of that. And
Well, sure.
so,
But we've had, as everybody knows, that our severance tax has been down 5.8 million since '05, and we've had budget problems like everybody else. We're not immune. We're like every county in Kentucky and in America. We've gone through a very deep recession. Hopefully, we're coming back out of it.
And Judge, I may add too, one other board member I felt that's also with Shelby Valley is Ollie Calhoun. Again,
Oh yes,
he's real active as
he
well.
is.
And they go beyond just say we meet once a month, but they go beyond that. They're active in their centers. Whatever it takes to, whether it's fundraising. So I do appreciate each of those individuals. It's not a paid position. It's one that those individuals volunteer their time, and it's evident by the time that they give that it comes from the heart. And and that's why I contribute the success of our program to those individuals that serve on our board.
Carol, I know that I've been in Tennessee and I've run into the bus. I'm talking about the big bus that some of them raises money and they take their trip. The smaller buses that we provide them, I've seen them and I've run into them about. Pat and I was talking the other day, the last, and I'm talking about in the summertime, especially before winter, trips that we made into Tennessee, both times, we got a blessing because we was able to run into our people from the senior citizen program. But getting back to the budget, we had to make drastic cuts. We had to $800,000 out of the insurance, took right near $1 million out of salaries due to attrition and the layoffs. But during that, the magistrates and I both said we're not going to cut the senior citizens program. And Carl, as Brandon knows, and I'm very active and attend meetings in Frankfort and go to most of the meeting. And our program is looked on from the state of Kentucky as one of the better programs in this Commonwealth. And we didn't cut one penny, and we put more money into senior citizens through the county budget than any other county in this Commonwealth. And that includes the big county, this county that has the cities in it. The Lord blessed us, and we wasn't able to cut anything out of this program because it provided these nutritional meals to our seniors, and because of the need, and because these people had paid their dues. And how we live in this county today, all these senior citizens and all of these centers that participate in it, and we tell everybody else that's that's watching this today, that go to one of these centers. They're going to give you the numbers on the screen, and call them, and go to these centers and start taking a part if you want to remain active in your community and in life. But our seniors, the way we live today, they paid the price. They paid it when they fought in the wars, the men did, the wives, all of them paid their dues. And what we're doing is giving a little something back to them as they become seniors, and giving them an opportunity to continue to be active. Our transportation takes them to the doctor, or makes arrangements for Big Sandy Transportation, the board you're on, to take them. But people in the community that don't have anybody, and there are a lot of them in Pike County that as time goes on, most people passes away in their family and they have nobody to look after. You have that program in here where they call and check on those people who are homebound and who are handicapped. And you have your people going in every day with your meals to check on them. And I know you've told me several times about what they found when they went to the house and delivered a meal, and the situation that the people was in. But this is one of the finest programs that Pike County government can provide to people who paid their dues for all these years. And they give us the county we have, the public officials we have. I've said this before, over 80% of those people, they go out and vote. They're not like the 17% of the young people who never go to the polls. But these people go out and vote. And these people are to me, are the cream of the crop. And I said, it's to me every time that I go, and I know Carl feels that way, and I know Brandon, you feel that way every time that we have, and we visit these centers. Carl, you're closer to them than we are, but we're blessed to go out and to participate with them in their meetings and the good cooks that we have at these centers and the meals that they provide and the input that the nutritionist does, and they do pick these what is cooked and taken to the people and what they serve in the center. So go ahead and Carl, you are the key to this great program. You and this board and our relationship with the ad district. And you have the total support, as you know, of the Pike County government and Pike County Fiscal Court. The senators and representatives, our senators and representatives who handle the severance tax, they love this program as much as we do.
Yes, for sure, Judge. They've always have given money to the senior program, to which we're appreciative. And any time that there's a need that they can help with, they're always willing to help in any way they can, as well as the Pike County Fiscal Court. And you know, you mentioned earlier we had to make some cutbacks, but that wasn't the reason for those cutbacks. Was at the federal level, and you know, unfortunately, there was some cutbacks at that level. But we're the type of people that look at next year with hope that we'll see that money, you know, hopefully comes back through the state to where we'll be able to go back to 5 days at those centers that were open 5 days. And so, and we look forward to working with our legislators this coming year and seeing that that's done. And they've already expressed that their support of that. So, and I know that they will do what they can, you know, either through the state level and through co-severance. And but I would say that, you know, of the things that I do on my job, one of the things I really enjoy doing, Judge, is working with the seniors. You know, I've heard story time after time, and you'll see some of that in the interviews with some of our seniors at our various centers, the importance of the center to them. You know, them being able to come out, you know, for the socialization aspect of it, to be able to socialize with others. A number of those individuals are widows. You know, the food is great, but the majority of those individuals will tell you that it's been able to come out and be around people. And as you mentioned, Judge, it's, you know, we do encourage those out in the county to come out to our centers. I've found that if you can get them through the door the first time, they'll come back. I've heard that story a number of times, too.
I remember the lady that was with Lou Witt that lost her husband, and she just didn't get out. And Lou kept asking people, have you seen her? And said, no, she hadn't been out of the house. She went 3 times before she got her through the door. And the lady hugged my neck and your neck over at Blackberry and said, you all virtually saved my life.
I've heard that time and time again of people that suffer from depression. That,
you know, Kemper, you remember that,
yeah.
how that
yeah,
husband and wife said, look, you made our life so much different, and we're so happy now that we can participate in this. Brandon, I know you've been there and you've seen it. You've seen it also. So this is a great program. We have attempted to do the best that we could, and I think we've done a great job, Carl. And I know that the magistrates and myself are very proud of this program and proud of the job that you do and proud of the job that this board participates in. And we want this program to grow, and we're hopeful that the LIHEAP program, that our economy comes back and Congress can fund that again. We have another rate increase that we've got to oppose. And, the Kentucky Power and AEP has asked for another rate increase after hitting us with in 2008 they hit us with 32%,
Yeah.
the last one they got, and I don't know what the blessed people up there is going to do if we later have a bad winter, because they've cut that program in half. Congress had, due to this recession we have in the country. So we're going to oppose that, and I can remember of telling the Public Service Commission, which they call themselves Public Service Commission, and I call them Utility Commission. We opposed them, and the only thing we got out of it was a study to be done to see if we ought to have an elected or an appointed. And I hope that committee has done their study and reports to the legislature, and I hope they change the law and we can elect those. And it right now is a Public Utility Commission, not a Public Service Commission, because 3 members are appointed, 2 of them vote with the utilities, and 1 votes with the people. So we need them elected so the people can have a vote on this. But they always come up with a gimmick. And I can remember 5 years ago or back I said, please don't do your planning. And as you do your planning, don't add on at one time 20 or 30%. And these people who are in set incomes, they have no way of paying the utility bill when you do that. If you need money to do something with, put a little bit on each year. As the years go by, put 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, and do it years, and then use that money. They always come up with a gimmick. The gimmick this year is, from what I've been reading, is that we got to have equipment to clean up the power planes. You know, they always have it. I can remember going before the House and Senate Committee in Frankfurt. When I wasn't even in office, I had an office in Frankfurt, and I had the Mountain Truckers Association, and I started reading in the paper. So I went over to the hearing, and they was building a power plant across the bridge at Owensboro, Kentucky, and Indiana, and putting a tariff on the people in Kentucky Power Company area, because they said they was going to put it on the grid and send it up here. But my mother and me and everybody else living in Pike County at the time was paying the tariff to help build the plant down to Owensboro. Now get this, the coal was coming out of the west, coming down the Mississippi River, up the Ohio River, up to the plant, Indiana and Owensboro, and they put the tariff on us. They have been heartless. They have not had the caring for the people of on set incomes, those who are handicapped, the veterans, and all. They have been very unfair. So we'll have to oppose that rate increase again, Carl, when it comes up in Frankfurt. But this program today is about one of the finest programs that we've ever been involved in county government, and that's our senior citizens program. These precious people who paid their debt to society and now can go and enjoy themselves and take the trip, have somebody look out for them, have friends. And as time goes on, they've lost a lot of they've passed on and gone to heaven, their family members, and it gives them an opportunity to come in and have people who really care about them. Go ahead.
Well, I'd just like to let the individuals know to come out and, support our senior centers. We have a lot of good things going on. Any suggestion or ideas, I'm always welcome to those. Our board is always welcome. Any ideas that anyone had that we could implement those ideas to improve it. So.
And Brandon, you've been to all the centers. You need to tell them what you've observed while you've been there to all these centers.
Well, I think I noticed something that Carol said. A lot of the people I talked to were invited by another senior and been there ever since. Most of them. Some of them came on their own. Some of them were urged to come down, but they're all still there. And I think it's funny that you said that the board doesn't always agree with you. One thing the fiscal court, since I've been here, has always agreed on is the support of the senior program.
Right.
I'm Brandon Roberts. Thanks for watching the Pike County Report.
I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. The Lord has blessed us, Carl, during this year. And what we get next year, we need to give him the glory for it. And we look for a great year in 2012 and hope our economy comes back. But I want everybody to be safe. We know people will be with their families during this holiday period, and they need to remember the reason for this holiday that's coming up, Christmas.